Hello, and welcome to another look with Christian King. I'm here back for the second time today. Just want to talk a little boxing for a minute. I have the washing machine going, and I also have some cats loose in the condo that I usually put away. So there may be a little bit of noise on this one. You might hear a cat meow, or you might, if the washer starts spinning really hard, you might hear that for a second. But I've got the good microphone, so we should be fine. And I just want to do a little recording for go out to dinner. So I signed up for a free trial to DAZN so I could watch Canelo take on Rocky Fielding Saturday night. I watched that alongside with the Bellator fights that were on DAZN. I had a really enjoyable night. Also watched UFC on Fox 31. That was my main focus. The Canelo didn't fight until after that was done, and then I prioritized Canelo. Hey there, buddy. I'm trying to record. You gonna be quiet? So I prioritized the Canelo fight over the Bellator fights. So, first off, I knew nothing about this fight until Wednesday. I had no idea Canelo was fighting until I heard it mentioned on Wednesday or Thursday in an MMA podcast. So then I decided to get a DAZN trial so I could watch it. So until the moment when they were walking out and announcing the fighters, I was not aware that Canelo was going up in weight. So Canelo was going up to super middleweight. If I'm not that great with boxing weight classes, but I'm going to pull them up real quick while we're talking, because I think I have. Hey buddy, I can hear you purring right into that microphone. Hey, that's not helpful, buddy. Hey, I know. Okay, now you're going to knock it over. All right, move. Okay, sorry, y'all. Boxing weight divisions. Okay, so Canelo was fighting at super welterweight for a while, which is 154 pounds. Then he moved up to true middleweight, and that's where he fought Triple G twice. He's now the middleweight champion. I believe the undisputed middleweight champion after beating Triple G, although I'm not sure if he won that fight. So now this was the super middleweight title fight, which is 168 pounds. So he had gone up 6 pounds from 154 to 160. Now he went up 8 more pounds. He looked huge. He looked so thick. His neck looked gigantic. It could be hard work. Canelo also had that super suspicious drug test that had to do with tainted meat, and then he got a really light slap on the wrist. He could be juicing. I don't know. I don't care that much. I do care because it's a combat sport, but there's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to chalk it up to hard work. He's in his prime. He's a hard worker. I'm not going to put dirt on the man's name if we don't have proof. So I'm going to say it's hard work, but good Lord, he looked thick. He was taking on Rocky Fielding, who is a British boxer who was some variation of the 168-pound champion. There's 100 different belts. So here's where we need to get into the talk. I'm not going to break this fight down. Technically, Canelo walked through this guy, hurt him to the body, hurt him up top, and eventually got the TKO. Rocky couldn't. The ref waved the fight off. Actually, he didn't even give him a count. He'd been knocked down so many times the ref waved it off. So here's what I want to talk about, okay? I have an issue. I'm a big MMA fan, as we all know. I do love boxing, but I do not love the politics and the matchmaking of boxing. I'm going to tell you, and this is not at all, I don't know anything about Rocky Fielding except for the fact that he would murder me in a boxing match. Literally, he'd kill me, and not just because he's way bigger than me. So I'm not talking bad about Rocky Fielding. I'm sure Rocky Fielding is not only an excellent human being, but I know for a fact he is an elite boxer, even if he did not look to be an elite boxer when matched up against Canelo Alvarez. But this is a common theme that you see in boxing. Rocky Fielding lost badly. He was dominated. And he lost his belt, his championship. And he was all smiles. Okay? that is an issue. We saw that also with Lomachenko's last opponent, whose name I've already forgotten. Petra's, no, I don't remember it. Okay, I already forgot it. But we saw that with Lomachenko's last opponent too. There seems to be in boxing these people that are opponents, and no one expects them to win, which that happens a lot in MMA too. But the difference between MMA and boxing is that these opponents in boxing also don't seem to believe that they're supposed to win. They seem to me to be happy when the fight is done, happy to have been paid, happy to have been on television, happy to have competed. I'm not saying that if you lose a boxing match, you have to be crying or just devastated beyond belief as if your child had just died. That's not what I'm saying. It's just a sport. But Rocky Fielding did not look to me like a man who had just lost his world championship belt. He didn't. He looked to me like someone who was happy to have competed and was just happy to, I guess, not have been decapitated by Canelo. And boxing needs to figure out, why is this? Okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and nix one of the... Well, actually, I'm not going to be able to fully nix it. In MMA, you have a lot of show and win. So we're going to use $500,000 in this example. In MMA, you would very likely, if you were going to make $500,000 for one fight, very likely your pay would be $300,000 to fight, and $200,000 more is dependent upon victory. If you have a draw or if you lose, you only get $300,000. In boxing, a fighter who is getting $500,000 will get $500,000 for showing up and fighting. People can argue that that is the problem. That if Rocky Fielding had needed to win to get all of his money, then that loss, he might have actually been upset that he lost because he got half as much money. But the problem is with that argument is that I find it to be unethical that MMA structures pay like that. I would find it to be unethical if boxing did that, even more so because in boxing the judges are so corrupt that a fighter would literally, like Rocky Fielding, would literally have to knock out Canelo to win the fight, even if he won it on every analyst scorecard. They would never give him the decision. So that I would have a problem with that. That would not be okay with me if in boxing you had to win to get your whole purse. So we're going to nix that one. Here's another possibility. Another possibility is that boxing needs to stop making fights where one person has no chance of winning. Because if they have literally no chance of winning, how on earth are they ever supposed to be sad that they lost? And how on earth are they ever going to get the confidence to actually try and win? The problem with that, though, is that boxing careers are long and you need bounce back fights, you need warm up fights, and you need what I would call a stay warm fight. To me, that was a stay warm fight. That fight was to keep Canelo active so that he can have a big fight on Cinco de Mayo. He might even have one more little throwaway fight in between now and then. Maybe he'll defend that 168-pound title against a mandatory challenger who he has, a 100 to 1 odds of victory. So, this could be argued as the problem that, these guys know they have no chance of winning, so the matchmaking has to be more competitive. But, like I said, you're not always going to be able to make every fight competitive. So, to me, that leads us to, we've eliminated, I'm not okay with holding these guys, dangling the money in front of them like a carrot and not paying them if they don't win. I'm not okay with the idea that every boxing match has to be a 50-50 fight where you have no idea who's going to win, because that's just impossible to do. So I think that it comes down to a case-by-case basis. And I think that we need to put the blame solely on the boxer. And my reason for saying that is that they are the ones who are going in there to win or lose. And if they do not care, or at least seem to not strongly care that they lost, then how on earth could anybody else strongly care that they lost? So I think it's on the boxer. I think that the boxers, like a Rocky Fielding or Lomachenko's last opponent, who are going into a fight against someone like Saul Canelo Alvarez, who they have no chance of beating, or very little chance of beating. I think that it is up to that fighter to tell themselves, I don't care what anyone else says, I'm going in here to win. And then if you don't win, you can still be proud of your efforts. But I think that as a boxer, in that position that Rocky Fielding was in last night, I believe that it would go a long way to the fans, to the people watching who don't understand the sport as well as you do as the one competing in it. I think it would go a long way to show a little bit of disappointment. And that might sound funny, but even if you're happy that you got paid and you're happy you got to compete, just put it on a tiny bit for the cameras. Show a little bit of disappointment that you lost. Because we, as fans, want to watch two people fighting or boxing who both believe with every inch of their being that they will be victorious. Thank you.